Yeah. I'll introduce it, but then I've also brought our senior planner Erica Malloy along if there's any questions on this. But this is something that really I think for us is super exciting as Taranaki. That we've gone this far, that we've developed our own group, developing our own group plan to lead us into the next 5 years across our work program. Compared to the old group plan, it has got a slightly new structure, new feel around how we're working across the 4 Rs compared to the old one where we had 6 or 7 key strategic areas. Pleasing thing for me on this as well is out of all the 16 groups, we're one of only a few that are actually taking this on and writing it ourselves. So full credit to Erica and the teams for actually doing the hard yards on actually getting this group plan to this phase. I note that we are seeking public endorsement to go to public consultation for this. And we are on a fairly tight turnaround to get this ticked off this year before we go into local body elections at the end of the year. So it's a fair bit of hard mahi going on in the background. But if there's any questions or anything like that, I'll probably refer you to Erica. She's the brains behind it.
Any questions that anybody wishes to ask? You've convinced them all. So if there's no further questions, we get a mover and a seconder for this. So who did we get to move this time? I'll move it so it's different. And you can second it. Thank you very much, Mayor. And put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, say no. It's agreed. And we come to the quarterly performance report. And once again, it's up to you.
So quarter two, not a huge significant amount to report back for quarter two this year, but the one positive thing is we're, well, as at the end of quarter two, we were $21,951 on the right side of the ledger, which is always pleasing. Not running debt. I can tell you that's still, at the end of last month, it was still tracking in the right direction, which was really, really good. Hopefully have a nice end of the financial year. Highlights are obviously that that group plan. We're doing a lot of work in our operational space as well around our systems, D4H, building the Rana stuff, working collaboratively with Hawke's Bay on that registration needs assessment product, and a few other CDM groups picking that up. Significantly rolling out a fair bit of training and stuff that's really, really kicked in lately, as much now than now that we've got over that December, January period of staff away and holidays and in the summer festive season. Just a couple of key things for us as well that are still going on. I'll update for this is one, we've still got working closely with NEMA around a website response page product, which will incorporate that Rana product that we've developed, which I'm super excited about, which means we'll be able to respond to our community needs or have more visibility around the community's needs quicker. Still working with like South Taranaki around the bird flu, or avian influenza. Still a hot topic, especially that nearest neighbours Australia have a strain of it at the moment. Other things that are sort of cropping up for this quarter as well is obviously the drought, which we had a meeting with MPI and NIWA yesterday, day before, which was for me is a little bit sobering. And I think as we're not directly involved as emergency management, but it will be something councils are going to need to be really well across, given the outlook is not great for the next few months, really till May. So yeah, our communities, our farmers, even our urban communities affected by water security and water supply will be something will need to be addressed, really. We are close, we are well below the 30-year average, and we're close to the permanent wilting point for a lot of areas, where basically means that if we don't receive any sort of significant amount of rain, that stuff won't regrow, so which is critical. So on that note, the Rural Coordination Group, which sits under us alongside MPI and Rural Support Trust, looking at some community outings. One will be in South Taranaki, one in Stratford District, one in Plymouth District, around getting communities together and actually being able to look at what the recovery is. So looking at recovery. So the option they've tabled so far is about providing grass seed for free. So that's through Rapid Relief New Zealand. And actually be able to give something back, get get people and communities together through the day, roll through and actually look at what we can do to actually provide some sort of recovery. Key message that did come out, Mayor Volsky, please chime in if I get this, if there's anything else to add, but it sounds like the rural community are quite positive at the moment still, which is kind of pleasing, and Rural Support Trust is seeing that as well. So, which is a good place to be, I suppose, given that they're in probably they're facing an uncertain future. So yeah, so that's the doom and gloom part of the, more of an update for what's happening this quarter, but yeah, not too much in the previous quarter. But I think something we need to table at this forum is keeping an eye on that drought situation.
Chair, could I just ask Todd, I mean, we sat through the Zoom and Mayor Phil did as well. The figures were extremely sobering, and it doesn't look like we're going to get any significant relief for the next 2 or 3 months, and even beyond that, it still looked pretty little marginal beyond that for what it's worth. But and it seemed that at the moment the response is that people are kind of coping. But at what point is there a trigger point whereby this group, civil defence, kicks in at a higher level than really just kind of being an observer? And so that was the first question around, what are the trigger points? And then the second one is, have we got a view or a comment to make regarding the level of government support that's been offered to date? $30,000 is just farcical. I don't know how they could come up with a number like that and keep a straight face.
Yeah.
So, is there more that we should be trying to get from government to support these people?
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose the trigger point has already happened for us, and I've been leaning into this, not being the lead, leading into this since probably October, November last year, supporting the Rural Coordination Trust and the Rural Support Trust about getting that application and getting that across the line. I had a chat to, and this time around, when there seemed to be no action, again, several conversations about going further up, and I had that conversation with Mayor Nixon as well. When do we actually get the minister on the phone? So we are actively leaning in. I think we're at that point, and I think we'll continue to be there and be involved. I'm not sure. Yeah, I suppose the key thing for us will be when the welfare issue becomes a need for the Rural Support Trust, and that greater good actually providing welfare to farmers, I think, is when, as a CDM, emergency management, will need to probably step in, and that'll be our place to be, I think, in that welfare space for farmers. We won't be able to access, with the welfare stuff, we can actually access some additional support through what we call Section 33 of the National Plan to provide welfare support to people who are in need. So that's potentially where we would have to look at our, I suppose, a real step forward. Otherwise, that's just leaning on people a little bit. And I suppose that's the key. The conversations I've had with Mayor Nixon is actually using this mechanism actually when we're needing to call up the line and actually put some pressure on central government, and using that wisely, because, as you say, I kind of coughed and laughed a little bit at 30 grand. I mean, that's not going to get us anything for where we're at. And I know Mayor Nixon also raised it around the South Taranaki issue on the maps that me were presenting. It doesn't reflect a true image of actually what is actually happening in that area, and we need to make sure we're selling that story, because they're in a worse condition in other places. But what central government is potentially seeing, or what me were presenting, is wrong. So how we change that, and I know that was one of the discussions there, how we actually correct that. So
what was, through you again, Chair, what was kind of most alarming about that was that it had the South Taranaki region, particularly Manaia through to the coast there, is a yellow area. I mean, and the scale that they had, that was sort of saying it's dry, but it's okay.
yeah,
And it's absolutely the opposite. So, I mean, if they had a pocket coloured in the way they did, the only colour that should have been on there was red, right?
Yeah,
not that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit concerning. Yeah.
Although even in South Taranaki, it does seem as if there are different areas quite dramatically different.
Yeah, but that particular one, centred on Manaia, was not the right one.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Leadham, who was leading the meeting, who was part of she chairs our rural coordination group, is working closely with her. And I think as part of, I suppose, my role and Timo is to support the people like Leadham. Like you would have seen the pause in the moment she had to have after the news was delivered. So for us as a business unit is making sure we provide the right wraparound support and the tools she needs to do her job as well, given that their connection, the connection to MPI as much as we're connected. So yeah, we are boots and all, I suppose is the right term. We're trying to lean as much as we can. And I know I said earlier, the minister is coming up in a couple of weeks, but I think that's an opportunity for people in the room to make sure we're connected with them and we actually put some pressure on to actually open up the coffers a little bit more, because it's not going to be very good next 3 months. So the general gist is basically we're looking at end of May before we get any significant rain. So that rain we got the other day was basically our monthly rainfall, a few mils short of our monthly rainfall, what we got this week. And then basically May, there's a few. So we're getting little bits of rain, nothing to top up any aquifers or anything. And then when we go to June, we're looking to a moist northeast flow out of the tropics a little bit. So moist, warm start to the winter. So hopefully that nor'easter will drive some water down. But because it's a nor'easter, it drops it on the east coast more than getting across to Taranaki. So, you know, whatever that mass hits first was where it drops all its precipitation. So yeah, it's not even that great a forecast for Taranaki in June. So that's the concern. And I know there's some water security talks. It's not just a farmer's issue, it's a city issue wide, because we've got our waterways and what we do to protect that around water restrictions. So when does it get to the point that our water supply to our cities or our towns is now compromised because we haven't had enough rain, or enough rain to top up the bores or the water tanks or whatever it is. So yeah, it's not a great outlook. And if we don't get that significant rain over winter, we're going to be worse off next summer. So I think it should be almost that standing item that we make sure we're on top of this with the MPI and the appropriate people.
Are you allowed to tell us when we're going to be blessed with the presence of our minister? Or is it...
He was working on, I thought his dates were around the 18th that week, but he hadn't confirmed anything. So we haven't, as soon as we find out, I think I'll do a quick round, because I think there's an opportunity to make sure he's connecting with the right people. And I would say this room's the right people.
So it's Minister
No, this is Todd McClay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the rural minister, not the Minister of Emergency Management, because it's we'll lean in and we'll do our bit and play a supporting agency part, but we're not the leads on this, and that's the key. Is we need MPI to step up.
Well, we probably may also need to be thinking about these things in relation to climate change and what necessary things have to be done on farms to deal with this over a longer period. And those that do know how to do this, I think there are lots of opportunities to do things, given a drier world. And it's interesting looking at some figures of some dairy farms in Taranaki, which I'm actually doing, in which farms which have 100 cows more are not producing any more milk than others. So there's lots of things that we really longer term are going to have to look at. And it's general, I gather the mayors are also talking about water in general as well. That's another issue about what we might be doing with means of conservation of water and storage and things of that sort. And that's the long-term thing. Is there any further on this? We've sort of drifted a bit away from the actual report. No, it's important. There's no problem. But is there anything else under this report that you want to deal with?
Well, with the permission of the chair, I could regale you with the brief chat that we had this morning about our next steps in terms of requesting information.
Yes. Well, if you're happy to do it.
Well, yeah, I just, Mayor Nixon brought up the issue what do we do about water supply, securing water into the future. And Steve Ruru offered to pull together a report and present something to us at our next meeting based on the data that's currently held by TRC and other places, just to give some sort of picture of what it looks like at the moment. And I guess from there we'll look at that and then ask questions about how we can go about taking another step towards water security, because it's not just the rural community that suffer from farm issues. It's also securing drinking water for the residential areas as well, because all of the water is sourced from rain or snow melt. And if you haven't got either of those two things and the mountain's sitting there nice and dry, it's great to look at, but there is literally not enough water coming off there to fulfil the needs. And the issue around being allowed to take water in proportion to the amount that's available is significant, because you can actually have a water shortage in the middle of winter if it's not raining. It's as simple as that. So we're going to get some information back, and we'll look at that in due course. But it's the start of a conversation that's going to be challenging us over the next few years. Yeah.
Yes, well, some of us have been to see the Mayor about this particular thing, and we feel it's really timely that this actual step be taken. And there are sort of consents and things around with various councils too, which have to be taken into consideration as you get more industry and do more things in your towns and cities. Then you need more water, and you've got probably a situation in this province where at times there's too much water, but at other times there's far too little. So there are issues there about how the whole thing, and it's very timely that you all have decided to take up this study and to see where we go with it, because that is going to be the future, I think. So is there any further comments or questions that anybody wishes to do on this one? Did I get a move and seconded for this one? I didn't. I moved over here and I'll second it.
Acknowledge the good work that the team's done.
So I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against, say no. And I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. And I note the next meeting is actually on my birthday. So there we go. You see, you can bring a cake.
21.
I'll just blow out the candle. It's not a personal thing of celebration when you get to my age. So,
I'm cheeky to say that how many cans are going to be.
well,